Well, I usually do not cook for myself, so it was a very nice experience to be able to cook with and for more people than me. Um, so I really enjoyed our teamwork in the kitchen. Of course, I had the guys made some comments. For example, when I found the best Greek feta ever in the supermarket, I was super excited, and they were super surprised. Um, and it was very interesting to see how things that for me are very common, and I use moves that I use every day, how for them is something unique and a first time experience. Um, um, yeah, like my mom said, always says, you can never have too much olive oil, so we had to use a lot of it, and yeah, it was fun to see the surprise in their eyes uh, uh, about the amount of olive oil used. Moreover, it was very important for me to find fresh ingredients. So we all went to the Turkish supermarket, and I was very surprised to see how many similarities it has to the Greek supermarkets and how many similar products there are there. Um, so, in the making of a dish that is uh, common for the history of the Turks and Greeks, it was the point where it all comes together.
Okay, so today I was the sous chef for Theodora, and we cooked Greek today. I guess the things I noticed today was how often I said that is interesting, and that Theodora at the end was starting to make fun of me of constantly saying that is interesting, because there were so many things that she was just saying about her culture in general, not only about food, that I thought as a openly culturally minded person was very interesting. For example, that what we use as knives just to peel the potatoes and the vegetables and the fruits, they use as a very common item, and they have like 6 or 7 of them in the kitchen. I think about the process, I guess the importance of the fresh food was very clear for Theodora. She thought it was very important to get like the fresher the better, and she was smelling and touching everything and seeing how fresh they were, and how excited she got when we finally found actual lamb's minced meat, which they minced for us at the Greek store, which was for us, for me, very interesting that they would just do that for us. At the Albert Heijn, you don't have that experience at all. And like small things, like when she found Greek products and how excited she got, especially about the Greek feta cheese, how extremely excited and bubbly she became and how happy she became, and she was like, oh, you guys have to eat this. And it was very, the hospitality of the Greek culture was very apparent in that moment. And later on in that day she said, food is love and love is food, in the sense that if you love someone, you give them food, and by giving somebody food, you show them that you love them. And that was something that was very striking for me, because especially like in the Dutch culture, you don't really see that. And when you go buy somebody to get coffee, you only get one biscuit and no more. Whereas Theodora, while we were cooking, we were also drinking wine, and because there was one glass that was less filled than the rest, and so she took that one for herself. And she said, well, for us in Greece, if there's one portion smaller than the rest, you take that one for yourself. And that also really showed the hospitality and the importance of being together and working together and showing how much you care for your guests. So that was very interesting. Also, as she mentioned herself, the amount of oil, we were flabbergasted. It's like, are you really putting that much oil in the food? We were really shocked, and it was really interesting how she was just throwing the spices in there without really paying attention and guessing the like tasting it and seeing if it needed more pepper or more salt, and just really cooking with gusto, as we said. And it was really, all in all, a very interesting experience, because I'd never really cooked with someone who was Greek before, so just in general also the dish, and I really loved the dish and the taste of the dish, and how to make something as simple as tzatziki was also very fun to see. So all in all, I had a very fun day, and I learned a lot about Greek food. We had a lot of discussions about different types of recipes and Greek traditions when it comes to hospitality and cooking traditions, really. Especially talking about your family and where the recipe comes from and how you know it from your family. She spoke a lot about her grandmother and her mother, and we just learned a lot, I think. Okay, so today I was the chef, and unlike yesterday where I was the sous chef. We made poulet yassa, which is traditional for the Gambia and Senegal, for the Wolof and the Mandinka communities. A dish that uses a lot of salt, a lot of pepper, onions, lemon juice, and chicken, and it's usually eaten on festival days. But what was very interesting is that it was very hard for me to direct someone what to do while cooking together without really bossing the person around, even though it's a chef, sous chef relationship. It's important to collaborate in such a way that was more in tune to the Greek culture, so more like working together and not working with, having a difference in hierarchy. That was very hard for me, because when I cook, usually I don't cook with somebody else. I like cooking alone and I do my own thing. It was also very difficult for me to let go of the traditional recipe and to really use some of the cultural markers we took from Greece, so like adding the color to the meal and the cooking with gusto, so like adding more of this or more of that, and tasting a lot was very new to me, and it was very difficult at the beginning, and eventually during the process of the day actually of cooking, it got much easier and much better. And it was very interesting when my sous chef mentioned to me that I was using the lemon juice like the Greeks use olive oil, and that was to me very like, actually you're right, the Africans tend to use lemon juice as olive oil, and it was really fun and funny actually to be confronted with that, and that you're confronted with your own cultural markers when you try to bring in other cultural markers. And to me that was an important lesson that I learned, especially for the future when looking at what I can do in the future with bringing cultures together and intercultural design.
Well, for me, today was a very interesting experience. I was the sous chef for today. We had to cook African, something I've never done before. And cooking-wise, it was rather the same as I was used to. It's not gotten very fine, it's almost normal sizes. But I only got frightened by the lemons. I noticed that we would take a lot of lemons from the supermarket, but I didn't know what to do with it. And then most of the lemons were squeezed for the lemon juice. And the first time the lemons would be poured in the bowl for the marinade, I was scared, because I know lemon has a very delicate flavor, very delicate taste, and you mostly use 1 or 2 slices on your fish, and not as pouring olive oil in the dish. And after the first half liter of lemon juice was in the bowl, in the dish, the reluctance to it faded away, and also from that moment on, the cooking with gusto started. As soon as I figured out that I'm behind or further than my threshold, so I'm out of my comfort zone, and I've accepted it. My comfort zone being not too much lemon juice. I got the cooking with gusto feeling, and I'm together with Sophie. We did a lot of tasting, figuring things out, experimenting. For instance, we took the rum out. It's not an original recipe for the bananas, but we took the rum out and we tried the rum into the caramelization of the bananas. And after we made the bananas, we had a lot of residue left over in the pan, and we took a bit of aluminium foil and I poured the residue over the aluminium foil, and it became a very sweet and wonderful caramel. It's something I only could imagine by cooking with my feeling and seeing something happening and seeing something that I think is interesting and continuing on it. And that's something that you can also use in your design process. Once you get the gusto, you can come up with new things, new ideas, go further than your comfort zone and expand your boundaries. And it was a very interesting day for me. I'm used to cooking, but not in this African way, like where lemon is the spice. And both cooking wise and also reflective on the design process, it was a very interesting day and experience.